Commissioner Flynn.
Thank you. First of all, the strength of the Vermont State Police lies in the people that participate in the day-to-day law enforcement activities throughout this state. It's a highly selective group of individuals, and we are lucky to have these people serving us. Being a highly selective group of individuals, that makes it more difficult for us to engage in the hiring process. 2008, 414 applicants. Out of those 414 applicants, 19 troopers were hired. 2009, 758 applicants. 24 troopers were hired. 2010, 986 applicants. 1.3% of those, or 13, were hired. From a management perspective, we need to be aware of those numbers because we need to look at that in regard to what numbers of troopers we're going to have retiring over the next few years and how we're going to be able to get qualified candidates to come into those positions. There are approximately 327 sworn positions right now. We have approximately 20 vacancies. I believe we've had 5 in the last 4 months that have been created where we've had officers go to other departments. When you look at our staffing needs as we project them out for fiscal years 2016 through 21, we have 98 members of the Vermont State Police retiring. That really emphasizes the importance of being able to attract qualified candidates and then being able to keep those candidates that turn into troopers, that make it through our process and keep them part of this great organization. We need to specifically look at the 2 to 10-year group. Those are the people that we want to be able to keep in so that we get their commitment for further employment within the state. Because as I said when I first started, the strength of the Vermont State Police lies in the quality of the people that serve this state. We're very proud of them, and we're lucky to have them within our ranks. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. And we'll keep our flood team and our law enforcement team here and answer any questions you might have.
Just a quick question. You gave the hourly rate, Governor. What's the starting yearly salary for the average starting yearly salary of a trooper?
$17 an hour. What does it work out to?
I can try to answer that. Our annual salaries are not based on a 40-hour week. Our members work a 45-hour standard week. So 5 hours of that is at time and a half. So 17 times 45, 47 and a half hours a week would be the starting salary.
And what is the average salary of a state trooper now?
I can't answer that. I don't know the answer to that.
I don't have an average. The $17 is the, this is a new contract, right? Previously it was lower.
Previously it was $14.
14. And Governor, you mentioned that New England states are 50% higher on average. Is that a starting 50% higher for the starting rate, or just general?
That's correct. And there was a study that was conducted that we're happy to share with you that basically illustrates what a challenge we have. But, when you hear the commissioner and the team here saying, we've lost 4 or 5 recruits just in the last few months, this is a real challenge. And, when you take a job where every time you get up in the morning, you know that you're risking your life, that you may not come home to your loved ones. And then you ask folks to do that work at $14 an hour when your neighboring states pay you 50% more, you can understand why we have a problem on our hands. And it's one that we need to address. I think the fact that we've negotiated a contract that has a 0 increase for yet another year in these tough economic times, and then takes the additional resources and devotes them to a real problem that's going to help us retain and recruit is just a great message for Vermont, the future of Vermont's public safety.
What's the overall increase in cost with the new pay plan?
Commissioner, you want to hit that?
The costs for FY12, which have mostly been budgeted already, will amount to $1.3 million. The costs in FY13 will be approximately $2.3 million for an overall cost of approximately $3.7 million.
So but you want to know the increase. Is that what you're after?
The increase, it's not, it's, the way the pay plan is designed, it's not an across-the-board increase percentage. The pay plan is designed so that an increase might be a higher increase in the earlier stages, but lesser at a different point. So it's not really designed in that manner, so that's not a question I can really answer.
So the 1.3 for FY12 is the overall.
The overall.
Cost of paying troopers.
Correct.
And the 2.3 the next year.
Correct.
Exactly.
How many troopers do we have now compared to, say, in '08? What's the staffing?
Wait.
I think we have about,
Or some year that if you have handy.
I believe we have approximately 250 now.
We've got 327 now.
Oh, 327 now, okay.
And how's that,
Oh, it's,
in the
that's
bargaining
bargaining
unit.
unit is 250.
how's that compared to 5 years ago? So, you know, or do you have, or any year that you might?
I believe it's very similar. The only difference would be the number of vacancies we've held over any given year. And 4 years ago, I think we were probably around the same with about 20 vacancies.
What about those vacancies? Any plans to fill them?
Well, certainly we want to, I mean, we've had difficulty recruiting and retaining, so yes, to the extent that we can fill those positions, we will try and do so.
But you were saying, Commissioner, that you had something like 986 applicants in 2010, and only 13 were hired.
That's right.
So all the rest turned you down?
Or they weren't.
I mean, you offered them jobs and you...
It's probably more likely that they were not offered jobs rather than they turned us down.
Right. I mean, part of the problem is the quality of the applicants that you're getting. And then the ones that you do want to make offers to, when they hear the starting salary, very often will say that's not something I can do, particularly given that there's a starting salary in, Chittenden or somewhere else that's, $17 or $18. It was hard to compete. Now we're hoping that we are competitive in the salary we can offer, and that given that we will have a higher caliber of applicant. So that because we're looking for the best and the brightest, and we're not going to just take an applicant simply to fill a slot. We're looking for the very best and the brightest.
So you're saying you'd fill the 20 vacancies if you had the applicants. They're not frozen. They're not vacant because of cost cutting.
No, they're not.
Do you also deal with, are there some guys who just want more action somewhere else? I mean, is there not as much going on in Vermont?
Well, we hope there's not. We want to keep it that way.
That's our goal. Our goal is to try to bore them to death.
I don't know that it's so much more action as much as there may be troops who come here to try and get experience that they might not get anywhere else, and now that they've gotten the experience, then they'll move to another state. And that's part of the retention aspect of the pay plan, is that we're really trying to retain those individuals, because when you have a new law enforcement officer, it takes approximately $80,000 to train them and get them certified. So once we've done that, we really want to hang on to them.
That's really important. I mean, one of the things, Peter, we're trying to do is run state government like a business. And I can tell you in my business experience that you have two challenges hiring. The first is if your wages are too low, you don't, compared to your competitors, you don't get the pool of quality applicants that you wish you had. The second challenge you have is that if you do, and when you do, you can't retain them. And your upfront costs for training are very high. So you hire them, you train them, they're trained, they go get a job in a neighboring state, or frankly for a municipal department, because they pay better than us right now in many cases. And you've made all the investments in training, and you lose that investment. So that's our challenge. We're trying to run it more like a business. I think this contract reflects that.
Could you tell us what the total budget is for Vermont Citizens?
Well, that was the number that Mike just outlined.
That was the
total.
increase.
Sorry, total budget
Total
is
budget, I think everything together, it's about 96 million.
roughly $96 million.
So are in year two, the salary increases or the hourly wage increases are skewed to the
Lower
end
end.
of the scale?
That's right.
Does everyone get a raise?
Everyone gets some increase in the second year, but the agreement, which I think is great for Vermonters, gives a disproportionate share to the new recruits.
Where does the medevac equipment come from? Why would you do this?
Come on over to the mics, Peter.
So if you declare a state of emergency, where's all this equipment that's suddenly available?
We have other resources that we can draw on within New England, and there are certainly federal resources that we can draw upon. Depends on our identified need and the urgency of the need that we can look to.
Is anybody, do you anticipate evacuating anybody?
At this point, we're hoping that we don't have to. It depends. The lake is going to tell us whether or not we're going to need to or not. Depends on if it continues to rise. It's certainly something that we need to scale up our degree of preparedness for. We're hoping that the lake will cooperate and that doesn't happen, but we want to be prepared in anticipation of this so that we can provide that service in a prepared, planned way rather than having to scramble and do it.
Yeah, can I just say a word? I'm just imagining the headlines now. We do not need to evacuate anyone in Vermont. We hope we don't have to. We don't intend to. If we have to, we're going to be prepared. This measure allows us to prepare. We're not evacuating anybody.
Would you involve activating the National Guard?
We will activate the National Guard if we need to. General Doobie has been extraordinarily cooperative, as he always is, and being ready if he's called. But again, we're hoping that we don't have to.
So just to clarify, declaring a state of emergency, the only significance it has, it doesn't bring in money or anything, it's just makes this equipment more readily available?
Well, let's talk about the money for a sec. Now, we're going to have a team of five teams of FEMA people on the ground on Monday who will actually be out assessing damage. There's no question that we qualify for federal disaster relief. So what this measure really allows us to do is prepare should we need to deal with an area that is isolated from highway traffic.
If I may, there are also some benefits to AOT in regard to doing this, and Secretary Searles can address it.
Yeah, there's two processes in place here in terms of reimbursement. The FEMA process, which is ongoing, is about local infrastructure. Federal aid roads, the state highway system, if you will, is a federal highway matter. And the state of emergency at the state level essentially puts us in a different status with federal highway and will enhance our ability to get reimbursement for state infrastructure damage and do it more quickly.
What is the prognosis? Do you have any expert advice, or have you been given any about how long this might take? I think, Brian, you said it might crest tomorrow, but the lake doesn't drain quickly. Is this a month? A couple of weeks?
That's something that none of us can speculate on. And when I started out by saying Vermonters are tenacious, they're tough, they're extraordinarily patient, we work together, but none of us are going to make the mistake of speculating what's ahead. If we have extraordinary wet May for the next 2 weeks, which has been the pattern, we have bigger problems than if it's sunny, dry, and warm. The difference between a lake and a river is that it takes much longer for water levels in a lake to recede under the best weather conditions. So we're in for a bit of a haul, and so much depends upon whether the weather cooperates with us or not.
What's the best case scenario?
I'm going to let someone who spends more time in Vegas answer that.
If we get a crest tomorrow, and we don't know what that'll be. Yesterday we thought the crest would be at 103.2 Friday noon. Well, it's already exceeded that. So, this is all uncharted territory. But if we got what the weather forecast tells us is likely for the next several days, which is essentially dry weather, we'll be able to better tell how long it'll take for the lake to come down. But right now we don't have any idea.